ProWrestlingTees.com is an awesome website with t-shirts from CM Punk, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and now me, Will Noonan. Check out the Hypothetically t-shirts, Candy Crackers t-shirts, New Enthusiast t-shirts, Will Noonan t-shirts, all available at ProWrestlingTees.com/Will Noonan.
Let's go.
This is turning into one of the weirdest shows I've ever done. It really is.
Catch me if you can, goddammit. Catch me if you can. You hear me?
Will Noonan's still flying and I'm after him, so I guess I'm after Noonan.
You're listening to Hypothetically with Will Noonan.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is where you are. Thank you for listening to Hypothetically with Will Noonan. That's me. I'm coming at you right now from Boston, Massachusetts. It's motherfucking Marathon Monday, motherfuckers. People are running right now. People are running long distances. People are running 26.2 miles. People are pushing disabled people in wheelchairs. People in wheelchairs are pushing themselves. Men, women, Africans, Americans, African Americans. Everyone under the fucking sun is out there running today in the Boston Marathon. Not me. I just ran my regular little mini marathon of 4.5 miles that I like to do. It scratches my itch. I don't need to do 26.2. Not even feeling that urge right now to do a whole marathon. Love running. Don't feel the urge to run a marathon. The longest distance I've ever run is about 9 miles. And feels good. I don't think I need any more distance. I don't need to like try and injure myself or push myself to some sort of painful limit. But I like to watch a little bit of the marathon on TV. Excuse me. Let's watch. Oh my God, excuse me. I got like fucking science teacher acid indigestion right now. I had tuna for breakfast. It's probably not a good move. Too much tuna. But I had some tuna, and that'll give you a little bit of the acid indigestion. And when you're talking and you start to get it, I always feel like this science teacher I used to have in middle school who was like, he couldn't get 2 sentences out with being like, excuse me. So, you know, physics. Love my impression of a science teacher. So, you know, physics. But yeah, people running the marathon right now. And I love the marathon. I think it's cool. I went to it a lot growing up because my dad ran it 10 times. Not in a row. Once a year for 10 years. But I always thought the marathon was pretty cool. But it's funny, I was just watching some of the news about it. And it's funny, you know, my dad used to run it. There's this guy here who's been doing it forever. His son is like severely disabled. It's, you know, nothing funny about it. Dude's all fucked up. Can't talk. Can't move. He's just, you know, one of those type of poor bastards, like locked into a wheelchair. And can't really do much. So like as long as I can remember, his dad was pushing him in the wheelchair, and it was like this feel good story about the Boston Marathon. It's like, this guy's all fucked up. His dad pushes him, and good for them, right? And my dad, we used to kind of make fun of my dad, because my dad would kind of be like salty about it. You know, back in the day, I'd be like, oh, well, there's that guy. And my dad would be like, well, you know, it's not even really that hard. It's like actually easier than running regularly, because like the wheelchair, you can lean on it, and it's like breaking the wind and all that stuff. And we'd be like, Dad, come on, this guy's like a really good guy, he's pushing his son, like, why are you taking away from it, you know? My dad would be like, I'm just saying it'd be like harder to just run it without pushing that guy. And me and my brother would often debate whether that was even true. We were like, is pushing a human being really easier than just running it? And I really don't have an answer on that one. But I was laughing at myself today watching, because the guy's still getting pushed. But no, now his father's too old. So this like dentist guy does it. No relation or anything like that. And at the risk of sounding insensitive, I started to kind of see my dad's point a little bit. Not really with, I don't give a fuck if it's easier or not. It's to actually do the marathon. But I did start to kind of go like, well, what is the point of this thing? Is the guy in the wheelchair even having that much fun? They kind of like to act like everyone speaks for this guy, and everyone fucking likes to sort of talk about him like he's not there when he's sitting right there. I'm watching the sports guy from Channel 4. He's like interviewing the guy, the dentist who pushed the guy, the fucked up guy in the wheelchair, and like his dad who's meeting him at the finish line, and some lady who I assume is like his mom, but I'm not sure. And they're all getting interviewed. The guy's sitting there in the wheelchair like, not at the risk of sounding insensitive. It doesn't look like it makes a difference if he's in the marathon or in a library or in a fucking living room or in a dark corner of a Viking ship. Hey, this guy could be fucking anywhere. It doesn't matter. And holy shit, what am I rolling up on here? Something's happening here on the road, guys. I'm rolling up on a complete highway stop. The state police are in the middle of the road and just stopped dead. So what the fuck is this? Do I have to get over? What the fuck is this, man? Nothing? The cops just stopped the highway for fun? Sorry, that was a fucking interrupt to my flow. That's why a lot of people do podcasts in studios and not while they drive, but seems to be the way I can make it work. So anyway, I'm watching this guy get interviewed. Well, I'm not watching him get interviewed at all. I'm watching his family and fucking friends, and everyone's like pretty baseline stupid. Like with their answers, and I could be overly fucking critical of people with the things they say on media, because I like to think of myself as like media savvy or something, or real. It's tough when you watch comics all the time. You get these unfiltered, sort of really funny and witty answers all the time from people, and you watch people on the news getting interviewed, and they're like, well, no one likes it more than Charlie. And then they like point down to this like poor guy who's in the wheelchair who's just like, duh. I'm like, I bet he would like to say, get me out of the sun. And then it just pisses me off, because this is what kind of bothers me about what the Boston Marathon has become since the bombing. Is like, the guy interviews the family, and it's all fake sort of Ellen show bullshit, where it's like, let's spend a couple minutes talking to these people who have a super tough situation that they deal with every day. We're gonna give them something, we're gonna smile about it, we're gonna call them heroes, and then we're gonna go back to being exactly the way we've always been 30 seconds later and never think about them again. But let's all fucking pat ourselves on the back really fucking hard for just feeling somewhat sorry for a small moment in time. It's like, the world is fucking rough, and it's definitely good to help people, but if you put yourself on fucking TV and you make a big spectacle of everything, every charitable act you do, I don't think you're really that fucking genuinely of a charitable fucking person. I'm not talking about these two specifically, because this has become kind of like a tradition or whatever, and you gotta do what you gotta do, I guess, and it's, maybe the guy does, I don't know what the fuck. I don't know anything about these people. So I don't know if the guy does communicate and he loves it, but I don't get that feeling just watching it. But anyway, none of that really bothers me, to the point of what happened next is when the reporter guy goes, he keeps asking this guy, the dentist, questions, and the dentist keeps saying stuff like, no shortage of support. He was with me the whole way. A couple times, I wasn't sure if I could finish, and I looked down, and he was like, "Durr," and I was like, you're right, let's keep going. I'm like, okay. And that doesn't bother me either. But then they finally wrap up this awkward fucking weird interview. This dude from Channel 4, I've never seen him interview anyone without like having brain freeze. And then the interview ends and he goes, well, that right there, that's what the Boston Marathon is all about. And then the people in the studio go, absolutely, that's what the Boston Marathon's all about. That's what it's all about. And then I became like Mr. Nitpicker Boston prick who was like, nah, it's actually not what it's really all about. It's actually about running. It's actually about a race. It's actually about elite athletes from around the world testing themselves against one of the toughest road races in existence. It's about personal... it's basically about... It's about the same fucking things the Olympics are about, which is like athletic competition. It's nice that the guy who's all fucked up gets pushed by his dad. It's nice. I like that. I like that that's like a little addendum. I like that that's, part of it. Certainly not what it's fucking all about. And it's also not all about the bombing that happened 4 years ago. Every single fucking... I don't care if like the guy from Kenya who wins and gets interviewed and he's like, oh my God, I love the city and I love the amount of fight inside the people. I've been working on my African accent. It did not come out good right there, but I feel like it's going to get better because I saw this guy in a documentary who's like, the people around here, all they want to do is fight. It's just been a fun one for me to do alone in the car. I want to have peace. I don't want to fight. So I could totally understand why an African dude would win the marathon and be like, good for you, Boston. Having all these years keeps the fat alive inside. Totally get that. But like, they're just interviewing like regular jackasses, who run the marathon. Like, a lot of people do it. I don't feel like it's that special anymore even to be like, I did the marathon. Because it's like, I meet like fucking fat chicks who are like, I did the marathon last year. And I'm like, cool. What a physical specimen you are. And I'm sure it didn't take 5 hours. And bloopity bloop bloop. This is going to be a fucking... I'm going to get emails. I don't care. I don't give a fuck. I want to fight with you. So, anyway, regular jackasses, they're all getting pulled over by the news people, and they're like, what'd you think of the marathon today? They're all like, well, after what happened 4 years ago, I just think it's great that we can all get out here, and this is what Boston's all about. Boston's strong. Boston's strong. So fucking stupid. I hate to be that guy. I hate to be that guy who's like, Boston strong is stupid, but it is kind of stupid. Boston strong. Not weak. Strong. Boston strong. Not weak. I mean, was that a tragedy? Absolutely. Was it a good thing? No. Do I want it to ever happen again? No. Am I glad the guys who did it are dead and in prison? Yes. Do I think we should fucking act like it was 9/11? No. Do I think we should fucking not move on with our lives and just talk about it nonstop until like 20 years from now? Can't remember yes or no because I can't remember the question. Secondly, I just think it goes back to my whole thing. I think like terrorist acts should be instant execution without trial, and your name and nationality is never released to the media. I think if you made those two things a law, and I think we have a crazy enough president to do that right now. Make it a law. If you commit a terrorist act and you're caught in the, obviously if they get you at your house like 3 days later, you deserve a trial because it's like you might not be the person who did it. But if they catch you red-handed doing a terrorist act, you're caught at the scene. Instant execution. Name is not released. Nationality is not released. That'll give, I think that'll give pause to a lot of people who want to go out in a blaze of glory or want to do a suicide bombing or want to do some crazy shit. I think if you just, if we stopped fucking making movie stars out of all these dudes and literally talking about them year after year after year after year after year, maybe people wouldn't do it. Because they wouldn't be fucking famous. You know what I'm saying? Dog. Anyway, any fucking way. Just shitting on one of the most fucking beloved institutions in Boston. But that's what the podcast is all about, right? I like to fucking point out things that I think are stupid. And one of them is that the Boston Marathon should be like fun, you know? It should be a festive day. It shouldn't be a fucking another way for bullshit t-shirt salesmen and fucking news channels to get everyone sad and emotional and going, remember 4 years ago when some bad shit happened, and forget the thousands of people who finish the marathon every year and overcome all kinds of shit. Let's focus on the bombing and this retarded guy getting pushed by his dad, because that shit is fucking sad, and people like to feel sad for a second. So they feel alive. I don't know why they do it. I just think it's all shit. It's all bullshit, man. So I'll probably get in trouble for everything I just said, but I don't care. It's been an interesting week for me, comedy-wise. I've been working on, interesting couple weeks. I've been working on a lot of new jokes, which is a rough time, if you ask any comedian out there who's alive. Working on new jokes can be a rough time, man. Not really, like, at this stage of the game for me, I understand it's not going to be easy. I understand the jokes aren't going to work, like, in 10 seconds. They're not just going to work overnight. Things take time. I understand that and everything like that, but it still doesn't make it any easier to go up, and not have good sets. You get, eventually you get kind of good at comedy, and you realize that you kind of can have a good show if you want to, eventually. You might have to do old material. You might have to fucking, who knows, do crowd work, do something, but you could get to a certain point where you can fucking adequately do the job, but you still have to develop shit. So then you're gonna go out and do not really open mics, but I'm doing small shows that are like open mics. They might only have 7 or 8 or 9 regular people in the crowd, so it's pretty close to an open mic without being an actual open mic. Small shows, and it feels like, I don't know, I was thinking about this last night, because sometimes you go, comedy's a lot like a sport, where, like a pickup basketball game, where, like, people have reputations, and people have ideas of who a comic is. So sometimes when you show up to work some stuff out, like, comics who have never seen you are there, and they're like looking to be like, oh, I've heard this guy's like really funny, and I want to check him out. Or, oh, this dude's headlining and working all the time, like, I want to see what he's got, or something like that. And then there's like a little bit of pressure on you. You're like, man, I came here to just work on new shit, but now I know some people are watching me, and if I bomb with this new stuff, they're gonna go back home and go like, oh man, I thought that guy was like a good headliner, but apparently he's just as shitty as me. Fuck him. And the reason why I know people do that is because I did that. All comics do that, but it's what it really is like, it's incorrect, because you realize as you get older in this game and you do shit, you're like, oh, that's like fucking impossible. It's impossible to develop new material and kill all the time. I do think my worst bombing now is not as bad as, like, not even close to as bad as it could be. I can still save myself here and there. But the only reason I was even thinking about it, I really haven't cared about this sort of thing for a long time. I'm always like, if comics want to see what I can do, they can fucking come see me on a weekend when I'm getting paid. Like, don't judge me on open mics. I kind of let that go. I stopped judging guys. I stopped being judged or feeling judged. But last night there was like this cute open micer girl there. And I started feeling some of those feelings again because like after the show she was like, tough crowd. And I was like, oh man. I was like, oh man, she thinks I suck. And so, you know, a good looking woman can still bring out some of the old feelings. But I was like, whatever. 13 seconds of that feeling, and then I'm like, you know, should have been a Nick Saturday. A lot of this new stuff killed. Then you just go on with your life. But it is a funny thing. Like, I was talking to another comedian about it last night. It's like I've definitely seen comedians who get trapped in that mindset. They don't ever want to have a bad set, even for 5 people or another comedian or a small crowd. Like, they always want to kill because they want everyone to know that they're a fucking beast of a comic and that they're funny. And I do think there is a stage when you first find the ability to kill, like when you first can kind of kill on command. You should do that for a little while. Go out and fucking show everyone what you can do. But eventually it's time to start working and start writing some new shit. And that can be a fucking brutal process. Like, really brutal. I'm working on new stuff right now. And the way my, like, kind of writing process is, as douchey as that sounds, is that I kind of like to start with, like, kind of, like, some really dumb jokes and some really, like, I like to start silly and hone it. I like to start silly and wacky and all over the place and slowly tighten it until it's like a great joke and a great set. And it's a months long fucking process doing that. I've done it many times with many bits. And I can say without a single hint of regret that I'm often embarrassed when I look back at the joke of like where the joke, places the joke went, jokes, stages the joke went through, things. I remember I heard Bill Burr say once on a podcast, like when you're writing a joke, sometimes you need scaffolding, and sometimes that scaffolding is hacky shit. And it's just a fact, you know, because you're up there, you're just fucking winging it, you're grasping at straws, you're trying to write on stage mixed in with the writing you already did. It's a fucking headache, man. So like last night I was definitely doing that. I'm up there, I'm like talking about my dick, and I'm just going all over the place. I was really just like rambling, seeing what came out. And after the show, I didn't think about it at all, but after the show I saw a couple like young open micers, and I was like, oh, they probably think I'm a fucking terrible comedian. And then I was like, wow, I haven't had that thought in like a really long time. But then I was like, when was the last time you really worked hard on writing a lot of new shit? And it was like, to be honest with you guys, it was like a year ago. So I'm working on it. I'm figuring it out. Getting through it. But certainly good times. And it's been interesting. But at the same time, on the flip side of that coin, I was getting frustrated with comedy. I was getting frustrated with the shows I was doing. I was getting frustrated with just only doing important shows and like doing the same material over and over again lately. I was getting like really, really, really bored with that. So I'm definitely happy to be doing this, and it really does like revitalize your love of the game. Like bombing a little bit, going up there with stuff you don't know if it's funny or not. Fucking working it out, man. Working it out. But I will tell you that it all pays off on the weekend when you just slip in a couple of the new ones into that third quarter of the set, and it lands, and the crowd doesn't know that it's new, and everything is fucking gravy again. So I don't know if that's helpful to any of the young comics that listen to this, or the old comics that listen to this, but don't worry about what your other comedians think. This is a fucking solo game. It only matters what happens when the money's down and the people are paying to watch you and they're in the seats. It's about the audience, not about you. That's what I say. And that's all I got to say about that. I'm very conscious about time this week. I did a Periscope this week. You can check that out on Periscope somewhere. I did a 1 hour long Periscope. Took some questions. talked about some random shit. Smoked some weed on Periscope. Actually, I smoked a lot of weed. I was super high when it was over. But one of the guys, fucking forget which guy it was. He was, damn it, I feel bad. I forgot this dude's name because I know him. He listens. He's a good dude. He was like, what's up with some of the 50, 45-minute podcasts you've been putting out lately, bro? And I was like, oh, I always thought you guys didn't notice that. Guess you do. Guess you do notice. So I'm trying to fill in the full hour. I've been doing a pretty good job, though, of doing that lately. And I almost always do a full hour. Only once in a while do I cut it short if I completely run out of steam. But I usually keep it going a full hour. And but that was a really cool time. I'm going to try and do more Periscoping, more YouTube video stuff. It's got a new iPad, so as a gift. So hopefully adding a new screen to the repertoire will equal more stuff. But that was a good time. I really enjoy the interactions with you guys, and the audience has grown a lot in the past few months. So a lot of new people, a lot of people with like more engagement and type interests, type shit, having a stroke. So anyway, working on a lot of new stuff. I won't tell you any of the new jokes I'm working on, but I will tell you what the premises are. Because I hate it when a guy's like, I'm working on some shit, I can't really tell you what it is, but I'm working on some stuff about bandanas. I'm really excited about that. Don't know if anyone's ever heard a bit about bandanas, but I got a long one about bandanas. That is definitely hot and cold. Some night it kills. Some nights it's fucking, people are like blue, 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 blue. Talking about dick pics, which I feel like is one of the ones that's a little hacky, but it's getting there. What else? God, wouldn't that be funny if I was like, I'm working on a ton of new material. Here's the list. Oh, wait, just dick pics and bandanas. American refugees, Tinder, all kinds of shit. Basically like dating type stuff. Working on the German movies and a bunch of shit about my ex-girlfriend. And I really think I could do a whole album on my ex-girlfriend being such a pain in the ass. And I might. What else happened this week? The United Airlines doctor situation. Not that I find it too funny, but I did find it interesting. And I also thought it was funny how the people got so mad. This is the kind of thing I expect on an airline. I honestly don't fly that much, even though I'm a comedian. And but I hate doing it. And it has nothing to do with like being afraid of crashing or being afraid of like anything like to do with like the airplane itself. It's only my only fears of flying are the kind of thing that happened to this guy, or the kind of thing that happened to a lot of people at airports. You're basically giving up your rights the second you walk into an airport. Anyone from the TSA to the now we know the airlines can pretty much physically manhandle you or detain you or fuck with you. I know a lot of stories about regular ass people, don't even smoke pot or do anything, who have been like detained by the TSA for hours or have been fucked with for hours. And that's a big, for me, a guy with anxiety, it's like a big fear of mine I don't like to be trapped. I don't like to be imprisoned. I like my freedom of movement. And that's the kind of thing I hate about flying. And this sort of puts on display how bad it's gotten. And I noticed if you search the YouTube video, the guy who got thrown off the plane, his lawyer gave a great sort of press conference that was almost presidential, where he was like, we need to take back the skies from these monsters, and put where are the customers? And it was just like, it was more of a political statement about like, why the fuck do we continue to pay for airline tickets when we get treated like shit? And what happened to that guy was absolutely criminal. He's about to be so fucking rich, it's not even fun. He's probably already rich, but he's about to be so rich, like he could pretty much buy he could buy he could buy a blowjob from everyone who watched the video. He's about to have more money than United Airlines has. But I found that interesting. I actually think in the long run it's going to be a good thing that video came out, because it might actually cause a rebirth of airlines competing to actually be the best and be the most customer friendly and the most, like, I don't know, comfortable and fucking, like, it should be fun to fly. It should be like a luxury. It should, for what it costs especially, it should at least be comfortable. And they've made the seats smaller and smaller and smaller, and they oversell. And flying is a really, really, really miserable experience. I think most people who fly are either on medication while they do it or they're drunk while they do it. It's a very small fraction of people who can go on an airplane without being sedated in some way. So what does that even fucking tell you about it? Like, about what the experience is like. So that needs a change. It probably won't, though. So, you know, because the way the world is right now, it's just, it's too fucked up to really focus on airlines. I was watching Hoarders. Speaking of fucked up stuff, I was watching Hoarders earlier in the week, and it caused me to think about how little I have. Talk about watching something and seeing, talk about being like a glass half full or glass half empty type, to watch Hoarders, a person who's completely mentally ill, living in filth, and I'm just like, how do they afford all this? How do they afford the house? What the fuck am I doing that I don't have this shit? It probably was because I was watching an episode of Hoarders that was interesting. It wasn't a filthy hoarder, like with food and like dead animals and fecal matter and shit and all that stuff. It was like a hoarder who just bought a bunch of crap, and she was sort of a housewifey hoarder. Although her place was definitely messy and stacked with stuff, there was, other than dust, there was not a lot of like actual filth there. And all I could think was, how the fuck much money do these people have, man? They own this home, they fill it with this junk. The husband got fed up and got an apartment that he can live in because he can't live in the house anymore. And the woman herself, it was interesting, because sometimes on Hoarders you can see, once the camera crew arrives and they're there and they start to clean, you can see the person who's the hoarder, like, they go one of two ways. They go like completely batshit crazy, like, don't take my stuff, like, you can't do this, I need all this stuff, and they just can't part with it. Or they go the other way and they're just like, how did I let this happen? What have I become? And they're like super depressed, and they just stand there and let it all happen. This woman was different. She took the avenue of like, everything's cool, like, oh yeah, I'm a bit of a hoarder, and I realize I'm gonna be on the TV show Hoarders, but like, I'm still a housewife who has it together, and like, this is my stuff, and I just have a problem with collecting. And like, she was kind of in denial about it, but really convincingly in denial, where I was watching it being like, well, why don't they leave this poor fucking lady alone? So she's a little messy. What's the big deal? And it was interesting. It was kind of like a pure example of just too much wealth, overdose of wealth. Not like she was a wealthy person, but she was obviously middle class enough to like completely fill her house with knickknacks from the fucking internet and all kinds of shit and shit bags and shit nonsense. But yeah, it was really fucking good. That show can be too much for me. I usually don't make it through a whole episode. I don't make it through a lot of things all the way. I watched about 4 seconds of that video where the guy in Cleveland is like killing people on Facebook. So I don't know why I'm laughing. I only laughed because I'm completely fucking horrified. But this guy's killing people on Facebook. And another reason I laugh is because sometimes when I say stuff like that into this microphone, I'm like, I can't believe I'm telling the truth, that people are now killing people on Facebook. So, if you've been following the news, this guy in Cleveland, there's like a manhunt for him. Basically, I think his girlfriend dumped him, and he went crazy, and he's killing people and videotaping it and posting the videos to Facebook. So there's one of the videos was on Reddit this morning, and it was like this guy, and he's like, he's like, this dude, he's like, I'm about to go kill a motherfucker. He's like, I'm going to kill this old motherfucker right here. And then I just turned the video off. Like, I didn't even watch, like, the rest of the video because I couldn't. I mean, I guess I've seen enough crazy fucking internet videos that my brain was like, turn it off. Just fucking turn it off, man. Don't watch this shit. It's bad for you. But and then I'm glad because I read the comments, and like every comment was like, I wish I didn't see this. I wish I didn't fucking watch this. I wish I didn't watch this. That's something I sort of do way more now than I used to. When I was like in my early 20s, I saw a lot of like fucked up internet videos, beheading videos, all kinds of scary shit, all kinds of bad shit. And then you kind of realize as you get older, like you can't forget stuff like that when you see it. You'll always have that information. You'll always have that like math in your brain. So I fucking try and avoid most of that stuff, but I'm not a complete pussy. Like sometimes I'm actually generally interested. Like I watched a video the other day of like this old, it was an old video from World War II of like a Nazi general being executed by firing squad. And I was sort of afraid to watch it. I had that same feeling of like, should I watch this? Should I not watch this? Should I watch it? But I was like, I'm gonna watch it. And it wasn't like, obviously it was a guy dying on camera, so it wasn't like super good, but it wasn't super bad either. It was, and plus the fact that he was like a fucking Nazi war criminal makes you go like a little, you don't really feel bad for the guy. But I don't know, I couldn't make it more than 3 seconds. Especially he was like, I'm gonna kill this old guy. I was like, oh Jesus. But I don't want anyone to think when you hear something like that, it's like, oh my God, what has the world become, you know? But the truth is, the world's always been like this, and there have always been random killings, and there's always been psychos who get dumped by their girlfriend and go out and unfortunately take it out on innocent people. It's always, I'm sure it's been like that from the age of cavemen. But now a guy can videotape it, and now a guy can put that on Facebook, and which is technically media. And then, if the news decides to make that a story, which they do now, that kind of thing, it becomes a story. So there's a temptation in your brain to be like, oh my God, this is like a new thing that's happening, and the world just keeps getting worse and worse, and things are getting more and more fucked up, and what the fuck, oh my God. But the fact is, sadly, there's always been monsters, and there's always been crazy people, and there's always been guys who get dumped by their girlfriends, who have small dicks, who gotta go out and kill, unexpected old fucks. It's not something that happens often. It's not something that's gonna happen to you, in all likelihood. And it's not something you should worry about, despite the fact that the fucking mainstream media wants you to fucking... I can't believe I just said mainstream media. All media. There's no difference between mainstream media and fucking side stream media. It's all the fucking same. And it's all trying to freak you the fuck out. So, just be aware of that. That's all. So on a lighter note, no, one of the big reasons why a comedian will start writing new jokes again, or get back to hitting the notebook again, or try and revitalize his career a little bit or his act a little bit, is because he's been inspired, right? Like, you see someone, sometimes you get inspired. And I think I'd been fairly uninspired for a while. DePaulo inspired me when I worked with them, for sure. That was an inspirational weekend. That was probably the last time I was pretty inspired. But Dave Chappelle's new specials have inspired me a great deal. And they're so fucking good. And no surprise. I pretty much started doing stand-up comedy because of Dave Chappelle. And now I'm 10 years in, and he puts out some new shit. And it's revitalized a lot of my... what I love about stand-up, watching him. I've watched so much stand-up as a stand-up in the clubs, opening for guys, you watch so much, sometimes you just forget what a fucking beautiful and magical and awesome fucking thing stand-up comedy is, because it's become your job. It's become, it's like I work in a fucking candy factory. I eat candy all fucking day. I don't remember the first day at the candy factory when I was like, holy shit, a fucking Reese's cup for free. It tastes so good. Oh my God, it's my favorite. I don't remember the first fucking day. I've been at the candy factory for 10 fucking years. I'm like, just a Reese's cup? Just a plain old Reese's cup? I like the ones that come out only at Christmas time. Those are my favorite. I like the wrapping. It tastes different. You know what I mean? It's like you become like this fucking guy who just forgot how awesome candy was because you're around it every day. So it takes a really, really delicious, tasty, unique piece of candy to make you go, holy fucking shit. I remember why I got into this candy business. It's because I love candy. It's not because I just want free Reese's. It's because I fucking love this shit. And even if I didn't have it, even if I didn't work in a candy factory, I'd still buy candy. And I'd go to candy conventions and I'd read about candy and I'd listen to podcasts about candy because I just fucking love candy, motherfucker. And Dave Chappelle's special was like that. His two specials really inspired me to go out and write some new shit and just get back to business, get back to what's really important, the art of this motherfucker. And then, on top of that, I'm like, Jesus, I forgot how much, I love this shit. So I go back and I watch old Dave Chappelle's that I used to watch on a regular basis, and I fucking love those. And then I go back and I watch some Bernie fucking Mac, man. When I first started, I used to watch Bernie Mac on Kings of Comedy, once a week. I just watch it when I was sad. Same thing with Chappelle, What It's Worth. Same thing with Dave Attell, Skanks for the Memories. And same thing with Jerry Seinfeld, I'll Tell You for the Last Time. And Pryor, Live on the Sunset Strip. Those 5 or 6, whatever I said, they were on regular rotation for me when I first started. And then I guess eventually you kind of just go, what am I, a fucking loser? What am I, a fucking tool bag? I'm still listening to the fucking same albums all the time. I gotta move on, or you start to think, am I getting too influenced by this shit? Am I starting to sound like these people? So I gotta move on. Or who knows? You just get busy. You can't watch DVDs all the time. But then you realize it's been a few years since you've even watched fucking Bernie Mac special. And now that with YouTube, I can sit there and watch Bernie Mac all day. So, I forget. When a guy dies, he gets this blowjob from the public for a little while. But then eventually people forget they were even around. So if you're a young, real young comic, and you haven't watched much Bernie Mac, please do. He's one of my favorites, man. And it's also kind of funny to see how much Bernie Mac has gone from just a comedian to watching his stuff now. You're like, wow, this dude was risky. If you watch his stuff through 2017 eyeballs and how sensitive the world is now, you're like, wow, Mac wouldn't have made it 5 fucking minutes in this fucking world without getting his career destroyed by bloggers. But man, is he goddamn one of the funniest fucking people to ever walk this earth. Bernie Mac. It's just so good. Tells the whole story with his words, with his voice, and with his face. Tells an entire story. And completely inspired by Bernie Mac. Completely inspired by Dave Chappelle right now. And I've sort of been getting back into writing longer story type jokes. Basically because of that. So, that's that, I guess. I don't know if you guys care, but fuck it. That's what I'm talking about. I saw Jordan Knight from New Kids on the Block at the pharmacy. No big deal. Guy who walks into Boston Donut Shop. All right, this is my impression. Guy who walks into Boston Donut Shop with a B- story. Hey, what's up? Yeah, just saw Jordan Knight at CVS. No big deal. Jordan. New Kids on the Block. It is a big deal around here. People love the New Kids on the Block still from back in the day, but we love them here in New England. Joey McIntyre, who was like the Justin Timberlake of New Kids. I got him to call my sister on her birthday a couple years ago. Had to pull some strings. Had to pull from all the way down here in the Z list. Had to pull some strings up to the B list to get Joey Mac to call my sister. But he did, and it was super cool of him. I'll be forever thankful. I'm friends with Joey's brother Tommy, and they're all just super good guys. To do that for me, I'm forever thankful. But yeah, Jordan Knight, I see him sometimes. He lives near my parents, and I'm still registered to vote there. So sometimes I'll go to my parents' fucking town to vote, and I'll see Jordan Knight at the motherfucking polling place. And I was at CVS picking up my Zoloft prescription, and I saw Jordan Knight picking up a prescription. I was so tempted to be like, yo, you picking up your antidepressants too, entertainer? It's so tough. We absorb the world's problems and put them into art. Hey, that's your new song, Jordan. I absorb the world's problems and put them into art. But this is what was funny about it was I recognized him immediately, but not because I was like, that's Jordan Knight. I was like, wow, this guy's like dressed really Hollywood and fashionable for Milton, Massachusetts. And then I'm like, it's probably Jordan Knight. And then it was funny because it's a pharmacy. So he's like, I'm here to pick up a prescription for Knight. And then I look and he's holding a Starbucks coffee that says Jordan on it. So I'm like, oh my God, I think it's him. And I was happy to see that he had to wait a long fucking time. So the employees at CVS don't automatically get good when they're dealing with a celebrity. They knew who he was too, but they still couldn't do their jobs properly because they're idiots. But that's just CVS. So I was happy to see that. He doesn't get any better treatment than anyone else there. But one of the funny things, I was tweeting about it because I was just like, I get recognized like once a week, and it's usually by a Kumia fan or someone who's seen me do stand-up, and they're not big deal. No one's excited, or rarely excited. And I made a joke on Twitter like, oh, Jordan's getting recognized, and it's making me jealous. And it was a joke, but I won't lie. I was probably 1% like, because like 5 or 6 women kept coming up and being like, hey, Jordan. Or people were just like, I know who you are. And they were like all happy and like, keep it up, good work, and stuff like that. And I'm not going to lie. It's a podcast not for lying. I had the thought, I was like, is not one of you fucking is a fan of comedy? I'm like, Matt, this guy was like an international superstar, national star on Oprah, like big fucking celebrity. And I'm like, I have a podcast, guys. You know Anthony Cumia from Opie and Anthony? Friend of mine. So, that's kind of funny, I thought. I don't know, you guys might not give a shit. It was kind of funny for me. I was kind of sad that April the giraffe had her baby. I wasn't sad that she had the baby. I wanted that to happen, but I was sad that I didn't get to see it. I was sad that April the giraffe had the baby at like 10 in the morning, and I wake up at 11 and I didn't get to see it. I have alerts set on my phone to see that baby be born. I watch April the giraffe pace around her fucking pen at the zoo all the fucking time. For months I've been watching April the giraffe, hoping to catch that birth. Sometimes leaving it on for an hour at a time while I smoke weed and answer emails and shit, just glancing up, checking in on April. And then they have the fucking kid. While I'm sleeping, I woke up and it was all like, 15 minutes ago, she had the baby. 20 minutes ago, she had the baby. I was really hoping to catch that one. You know me, if you listen. I love live streams. I'm big into them. I think they're very cool. So I was kind of bummed I missed it. But what are you going to do, I guess, right? Am I right? I might actually have to drive. I found out the zoo she's in is only 5.5 hours away driving from here, and I was like, man, I might have to drive to go see April the giraffe. Might have to get out there. Maybe we should make a hypothetically fucking field trip, rent a bus, and we'll all go look at April, smoke weed the whole way out there, and go see the kid. I don't even know the kid's name. They should name. I hope they named it Will. I doubt it. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up at a couple sad things before we get out of here. Not about me, but sad things in the world. Isaiah Thomas from the fucking Celtics. They're in the playoffs. Their first game in the playoffs was last night. Day before yesterday, Isaiah Thomas's kid sister dies in a single car accident in Washington State. Everyone's like, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Honestly, I'm pretty proud of my city. Most of the people I talk to in Boston were like, you know what? I don't care if he plays or not. That's fucked up. Like, take all the time you need. If he plays, he plays. If he doesn't, like, he can take all the time he needs. Like, I didn't see anyone go like, I hope that fucker plays and he fucking murders it. And, he's got to play. He's got it. Like, I didn't hear a single person. I'm sure they're out there, but I didn't hear any of them. So I thought that was cool. It's happened a lot in sports, too. I think Favre's dad died. My buddy Paul reminded me last night that was Favre who that happened to. And, I was kind of expecting more of that. I figured the guy would go out, he'd have, like, something, a black armband or something. That'd be that. But he was actually, like, really sobbing before the game and sobbing on the bench, and you could see it. And I've seen Isaiah Thomas over the years play basketball, and I've watched him, on the courts many times, and it's super sad to see. It's not... there's nothing funny about it. There's nothing kind of like, there's no silver lining. She was 22. It sucks. Sucks all the way around. So I super feel bad for him, but I am kind of inspired by him as a man for doing that. But a lot of people don't seem to understand it, but I absolutely understand it. Not that it's the same thing, but I did a show the night my dad had a heart attack. And every night after for about 3 weeks, because it was really good for me. It was a great time to just sort of, honestly, it was just 10 minutes or 20 minutes when I was on stage that I didn't have to think about that. Because when you're doing stand-up, you just can't think about too many things, because it's, it's like driving a car 500 miles per hour. You gotta be in it. It's impossible to not be in the moment, I think, for me at least, when you're doing stand-up. But... I guess it's not for everyone. Everyone has different ways of dealing with things. But when I'm going through tough times, like breakups or grieving, I like to do a lot of stand-up. When my dog died, who I was in love with, my first dog, who I was extremely sad when he died. He died in my arms. I did a show that night. I didn't talk about it on stage or anything. But it was just, you go out and you go back to work, and it just, you find some solace in the routine. So I'm definitely inspired by the strength. I know that sounds wicked corny for a podcast that started with me making fun of a guy who pushes a retarded guy in a wheelchair in a marathon. But this is a little different. This is a pro basketball player, and he's not pushing anyone. He's just kind of overcoming something. And I don't know. All the love in the world to Isaiah Thomas, and whether the Celtics fucking get knocked out in 4 games or whether they win the championship, I think he's already, like, really, showed us all a lot about his character. I just think that's really cool. So next time, next time I'm fucking bitching about something or I'm feeling too sad about something, I'm going to think about Isaiah Thomas, and that's actually worth a lot, man. I think about Michael Jordan's flu game all the time, and that was like, I was fucking like 9 when that happened. Michael Jordan played this game against the Utah Jazz. Like, he was sick as a motherfucker. You could see it. He didn't even look right. He looked gray, and he still had an awesome game. And I think about that all the time when I'm sick and I got to do stand-up comedy. I'm like, Michael Jordan fucking scored like 30 points and was awesome, and he had the fucking flu, and he was on TV. You can do this shit. You can do this fucking show in Ronkonkoma. And the other sad news this week was Charlie Murphy from the Chappelle show and from stand-up comedy died way too young. No one even knew he had leukemia, and he died. And I saw a couple people with snarky type tweets like, oh man, everyone loves fucking Charlie Murphy now that he's dead. And I guess, but I didn't feel like it was like that with Charlie Murphy. A lot of times celebrities do die, and people come out of the woodwork and go, "Oh fuck, like I love that person." You're like, "Really? I never heard you mention Carrie Fisher before." Or, whoever the fuck you're talking about. I never heard you mention them before. But then, things happen. And sometimes that's how people are. But with Charlie Murphy, at least in the stand-up comedy world, I know he was really well-liked amongst people who work in comedy. I'm not just talking about comedians. I'm talking about, waitresses at comedy clubs, comedy club bookers, comedy club managers and stuff like that. They're the ones who who I always heard say a lot of nice things about Charlie Murphy. I never met Charlie Murphy, but I had been at clubs the night after him or the couple days after him, and sometimes I'd be like, "Oh man, the green room fucking smells like weed right now," and they'd be like, "Yeah, Charlie Murphy was here, man. That guy fucking smokes a lot of weed in the green room." And I always thought that was really cool, and people would always say nice things about him. But I think the other reason why a lot of people love Charlie Murphy is because he's a lovable guy, and the stuff he did on the Chappelle show was like some of the most famous stuff on that show. Dave Chappelle gets a lot of the credit, obviously, and rightly so, for doing most of the heavy lifting on that show, and Neil Brennan, of course, too. But a lot of the stuff that's in people's minds, Prince playing basketball, is all Charlie Murphy. And a lot of the stuff, a lot of those quotes from that show were Charlie Murphy. And a lot of like guys my age were in college when Chappelle's show was popping, and it's like a real happy time for us guys to remember Charlie Murphy back then and how much joy and happiness he gave us. And that's really, when you're a comic. I heard Ari Shaffir on his podcast say the other day that he does not give a fuck. He's like, some comics find some joy in the fact that they spread joy, and that they're like making people laugh and making people's lives better. He's like, some comics think about that. He's like, I never fucking think about that. Fuck them. It's about me. I want them to laugh at my jokes. And I do think there's two types of comics, and I don't think one's better than the other, but I'm definitely of the camp where I do take some solace in that. And I do feel good about the fact that I've made people laugh and that I've taken people's bad days and turned them into good ones, and I do feel good about that. And I do like kind of take that a little seriously and think of it as almost a little bit of a responsibility sometimes, which I guess is kind of boring. But whenever a guy dies, I really like to share a couple clips of them being funny and just go back and watch a lot of them being funny, and just remember, like, comics do leave a gift when they die, which is all their work, and it will make you laugh. And that's something a lot of people can't do. A lot of people can't make you laugh, and Charlie Murphy could. And even though he died young, he left a great footprint on this world, a footprint of fucking positivity, laughter, making people feel good. And I can only hope that I do the same, and I hope I think that's like one of the good things about being a comic, is that we do make people do the opposite of crying. Crying is like what happens when you feel so bad you can't eat. Your body starts to, when you feel so shitty, whether you're in pain or whether you're just depressed or sad, you feel so emotionally shitty that mucus comes out of your nose, water comes out of your eyes, your face contorts into an ugly face, and you uncontrollably make noises like that's what crying is, right? Laughter is the exact fucking opposite. You're smiling, you're feeling good, you might be crying a little bit, but it's good crying, and it's involuntary, and you don't know where this fucking thing comes from, but it happens when you feel good. And whether or not sometimes it's a bummer, and sometimes doing the road sucks, and sometimes dealing with bookers sucks, at the end of the day, I got a really good job. And guys like me and Charlie Murphy and Isaiah Thomas, we're pretty much saving the world. Am I right? I don't know where that was going, but frankly, I'm just trying to make it to 60 minutes so I don't piss off that dude again. Guys, thank you so much for listening to Hypothetically this week. please donate or buy a t-shirt or buy an album. Support the show somehow. I just paid all my taxes. I need money. Check me out at willnoonan.com, at willnoonan on Twitter. You know it all. Tell your friend about the podcast. It's growing. It could grow more. Top donator right now is Mark McNabb, still after 1 week holding at 200. But any donations will be read on the podcast and tweeted. And I'll follow you on Twitter as well. So thank you so much for listening to the show. And remember, if no one told you they love you today, I do. Peace out. Out. Testing. Bum 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 bum. That was. I don't need it that low. Hello, test. It's a little too low. La 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 la. Test 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 test. Am I manually doing this? Test, test, test. Can we get it back up? Can we get it back up? Good morning. 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 Good fucking morning. Fuck it. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, 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 morning. Meet me at this level, auto fucking recorder, auto mic level setter. Test, test, test. Fuck it. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is. Fuck. Still sounds weird. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whatever time it is where you are, thank you for listening to Hypothetically with Will Noon, and that's me, coming at you right now from Milton, Massachusetts, heading into South Boston, Massachusetts. Just taking it easy here, Marathon Monday here in Boston. We'll be talking about the marathon later on in the podcast, but how are you guys doing? How are you? How are you fucking doing right now? I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. Doing pretty good. Just had a weekend, like you did probably. If you're live listening to podcasts, you probably just had a weekend of time. Today's Monday. Here in Massachusetts, it's a holiday. I don't know if it's a holiday everywhere. I don't think so. We got the Boston Marathon today. Pretty much shuts down most of Boston for a lot of the day, so I'm staying out of the city. Southeast, as deep as I'm gonna go today, I think. But anywho, this is the podcast. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about fucking starting over this podcast, because this sucks. My energy level is shit. 1, 2, 3.